Hey group, just after noon on Thursday, I'm back again. This is the third installment for the force field problem solving model, so step 3. So I was going to go through what I came up with, some driving forces, then I'll go through the restraining forces, and then the evaluation from part B of what I kept on and what I pulled off and why. So for driving forces, I came up with there's costs for the cafeteria of the staff they've hired, the management of their funds, how much they're allowed to spend on obtaining food and drink, and that ties into maintenance and upkeep costs for the cafeteria. So cleaning, putting everything out, having it well stocked, having the people there for it. Let's see. Then I have a driving force of what the customer wants. If you know what they want, then you're going to have a product that sells, which ties into how much the customer is willing to spend on those products. And so a thought there was, and I'm jumping ahead, but I made a special note that surveys could possibly remedy that. If you're going up to the register and you grab some stuff that you're paying for, that might be a way to resolve that, is by having a sheet saying, hey, what are you interested in us having and how much are you willing to spend, or have some examples. But that's jumping ahead, but I was just wanting to make a special note since that came into my mind. So it's what the customer wants and how much the customer is willing to spend on those wants. Restraining forces. The cafeteria is restricted by the choices of the local suppliers and its vendor suppliers. So they can only go from that. If the supplier doesn't have it, well, I don't know exactly how the cafeteria will get it then. Short of going to somewhere else and spending more money and more time. And that's versus the vendors' choices from local stores and a supplier too. So vendors in a similar situation. Advertising as a cost restriction. CSCC has an advertising budget. They may or may not have anything for the cafeteria. They may look at them and say, we can allocate this much, or we don't allocate anything. And that's going to be a similar issue for the vendor. They're probably going to use word of mouth or something very personally done for their advertising. Or it's going to cost out, it costs out of pocket. I mentioned just because it came up in stuff 1 and 2, the weather reports, weather analysis. Now, obviously, that's not going to stay on in Part B. You can't control the weather. But there's TVs in the cafeteria, so if you had the weather report up, I guess, you're going to at least know what's going on with Mother Nature, but you can't change it. And then finally, for a restraining force, how long the food can stay out after its preparation, and how long it stays hot, stays ready, stays sealed. There's a duration of time where it can be out. At a certain point, they have to pull it, and that's set by things like the FDA and the Department of Health, and so we're not going to have much control over that in the cafeteria level. So to go back through, driving forces, the cost of the hiring staff and what they're paying out, that's going off. That's human resources. We're not going to be able to probably delve into that. The management of funds can stay on. We can maybe streamline some of the processes and save some cents here and there. Save enough, maybe lower the prices, entice more customers. The maintenance and upkeep costs, which that ties into, stays on, because as I said, if maybe we can legitimately cut down some costs and then send that right to the customer. What the customer wants can stay on, and how much the customer is willing to spend stays on. Because as I said, I think we have a way to address that through surveys and gathering information. Restraining forces. The choices from the supplier to the cafeteria, that goes off. We don't get much say in that. The vendor's choices from local stores in comparison, that would not stay on. That goes off. I mean, you can only go from what they have. I already mentioned the weather analysis. That I'm taking it off just because there's TVs on and someone could go up and just change the channel and put on the weather and the news. Training for the employees, the service preparation, service cleaning, things of that nature, that type of information could stay on. You could maybe develop some new methods or better methods and inform the staff. Or maybe it just the display looks better or it's more enticing. And then what stays on is how long the food can be out. Stay ready, stay prepared. Because you can let people know that, okay, we're going to have this out for X amount of time, and if you're interested in it, great, but at this point we got to pull it. And sometimes when you tell people things are coming to an end, they'll act right before the last moment. So I think there's a possibility that can stay on. So there you go. I've gone through driving forces. I've gone through restraining forces. That was part A, the brainstorm driving and restraining forces. And then I evaluated them with reason, the list of forces, part B. So there's some input on that, and my next video will be picking up where I left off for step 4. Thanks.